All right, hello everybody. We're going to be going over a UJ sell, which is a great example of being able to change your bias mid trading session and understanding where price is at and why it's changing the bias for the day and what to really expect and what could change your bias. That could definitely help while you're in a trade or expecting a trade to go a certain way and be able to recognize when price may not be going in the bias of the day that you're already considering it's going. So without further ado, I do have everything marked up already, seeing as how sometimes the videos end up too long and I want to be able to get to the point where we're all understanding and I'm not just marking up a bunch of stuff. So I do have my high of days and lows of days already marked. I have the high day there, low day here, previous high day, previous low day here, all in session. This one doesn't count because it's out of session. This one at 3 a.m. Eastern time is in session. And then we're going to do our top-down analysis. So I am going to go into the weekly and see what we have for the weekly. So as far as weekly goes, we didn't have anything on the demand side that's very clear, seeing as how this one was already used. Price was inside of it. It broke underneath it, as seeing as how I went underneath this entire candle and it pulled down. Everything else here was used. So the next area for the weekly would be way down here at 115. And then for the supply side, it would be this previous contrary candle before this large move here. So this would be the first target, but the main target would ultimately be this one up here, where price actually gave this entire move. And then we'll go down to the daily and do the same thing. So there was this large daily supply candle, but seeing as how price already used it here, I wasn't counting it anymore, and seeing that how price already gave a pullback, found this daily demand, and seeing as how we're pushing off of it, I start already thinking maybe we're buying now. We're just creating pullbacks to create new areas of supply and demand for it to bounce off of to get to these areas up here, seeing as how it's already breaking through this one. The next area for the daily was this one that I had marked up here, seeing as how everything else was tapped. This is the next daily. These are used, this one's used here, and we'll keep going. This one was used with this one, so this one we can't count it because this one was used here. So yeah, that's the other daily, and the daily would be this contrary candle before this big push. It wouldn't be this one because this one is inside of this one. So we'll go down to the 4 hour and we'll see what else we see. All right, so as far as the 4 hour, the true area of demand that created the entire move would be this one down here, that has not been touched yet. So but price is creating new areas of demand off of other contrary candles. So this 4 hour contrary candle obviously was used here as demand, where price found demand here, respected it, and price gave it the move again. And then we'll see here as well that price respected this previous contrary candle before this large move. So on the higher time frames, it looks like we're buying. It looks like price is finding supply, giving a pullback to be able to break it. You can obviously see we're doing higher highs and higher lows. So we're already thinking buys. And then as far as the H4, this previous contrary candle was broken already, seeing as how price seems like it wanted to continue going up, but it then needs to find demand to continue the move to be able to break over this high. So price did close above here. The bodies did close above here. So I count this as not being valid anymore. So then the next H4 is this H4 up here. Seeing as how this very large candle is blocking everything on the left. This very large candle was used already here, so it's no longer valid. So this was the valid one, and then it closed above here. So now there's really nothing stopping price up until this daily area. And then we do have to understand that price did use this one. So I was thinking buys, but seeing as how price already tapped this H4 and it gave a reaction, I'm no longer counting this H4. So the next area would be this H4. and then we'll go down to the H1. So the first areas of relevant price on the H1 would be this supply that was left here. And then I want to see why price is giving that pullback here. So this is a great one because it's not exactly the true area of supply. So contrary candles will still provide a possible reaction, and it's very important to mark them out. Although it may not seem like it's the true area, we would still mark this up as the H1 and see that price is reacting off of this H1. I'm not gonna mark it with the box. I'm just gonna mark it up with the H1. But we do see that price tapped it literally to the pip, and it's creating that pullback now. But now price has used this H1, so it's not entirely valid. And then the next target area would be the daily up here. So we do understand that price has found supply, but lately we've been seeing that price is breaking supply, finding demand, and then continuing the move. So let me go down to the M15. Seeing as this is the first H1 supply that has a breakthrough to confirm the buys, and then down to the M15, and we'll see what we're working with here. So we do know that price is giving pullbacks to be able to find demand. And I did notice this M15 here. It seemed like price had already used it here, gave a pullback. So although it did not break underneath it, I did consider it used already since it did tap here. And then price started digging into it. So I wasn't entirely convinced that this demand was being respected, seeing as how price was coming down in here. But on the supply side, I was expecting for price to at the very least break this M15 supply before thinking buys. I want to make sure that this M15 supply is not going to mess up the buys. I wanted price to close up above here. It had to do this for me to consider buys, to be able to catch a move up to this M15 as the first target, and then after the M15 the H1. So I was thinking buys so long as price was closing above this supply area. And then we also had this M15 here. Let me mark this up as supply so we can tell the difference here. So that's supply, and I was waiting kind of for an M1 confirmation after market open. So after I saw this, price closed above it, I wanted to wait for an M1 confirmation inside of this M15. Let me delete this old M15. This is the new M15, this box here. I wanted to make sure there would be an M1 confirmation. So I needed something like this, for there to be a left, ahead, a shift of structure with an M1 left behind, or maybe even an M1 with an M5 to then continue to the upside, seeing as how price was closing above here on the 1 minute, and on the 5 minute I was confident in the buys, but there was no clear 2 time frames in sync. So let me mark this up here. When price did close above here, we had this M5. Let me replay it a little bit so it's a little cleaner. So when price was here, I was considering buys, but we did have M5 here. M15 would be this one here, which is the box. And then the M1, the only valid M1 would be this one down here. So there are currently no 2 time frames in sync. All of them are kind of separated. It's not very clean. You normally want them stacked together, or at the very least within no more than 5 pips apart. So if we put our buy limit, you'll see that they're much too far apart. This is way too far. It's almost like halfway. You normally want them stacked together. So I decided to wait for an M1 confirmation for price to come and give me something like this, an inverted head and shoulders. Price did not give the M1 confirmation. So now I had to start thinking if there was going to be a change in bias. I did want something cleaner. This was the low, so I never really shifted structure. like this wouldn't be a shifter structure. Had it closed way up here and then came down here, then I would have considered this a shifter structure. But with market structure, this is the high and then this is the low. It never went below it with the bodies. So it was still bearish. There was no shifter structure. And then I started seeing that price was closing under this M15. So now when I started seeing that price was closing under this M15, I was thinking that there was a possible sell setting up to find the next area of demand, which would be this M15. So we already established that price was reacting off of this M15. It already hit it once and then twice again when it dug deep in here. This is the next M15 for price to possibly have a reaction from. And then I started marking it up as if I was looking for sells to see if there would be any time frames in confluence. And then we had the M5 here, the M15 here, and the M1 here. So with all three time frames in sync and a large bearish move like this, the previous contrary candles all lining up within 10 pips, I was more than happy to take this change of bias trade to target this M15. Although we are looking for demand to be able to buy, and then technically there's nothing stopping price up until this M15, but price was showing us that it wanted to find deeper demand. So long as price hadn't touched this M15, I was thinking of the sells from here down to the M15. And then we'll go ahead and we'll play our trade and we'll see what happens here. So we'll see that price does take a time for it to show up here. All right, so price showed up to our area and it seems like it wanted to give the reaction off of the M1. And then there was some help that we did have in this trade. Couldn't have done it without it. We had our trusty Glizzy rocket ship take us all the way down to TP2 beautifully. As soon as you have the Glizzy escort, you're getting the TP2 automatically. So this was a beautiful trade, beautiful change of bias mid session. Very patient, very in tune with the market, understanding what market is doing. It's breaking demand, shifting structure. We had this bearish move, large move before with this previous contrary candle. And then you'll see that price ends up tapping this M15 perfectly, gives a little shift of structure, and continues to the upside. I was not thinking of buys at this area, considering I had already taken the trade here. But you'll see that price was in fact looking for a new demand to then get up to this M15 supply that's up here. So great trade. Glizzy escort was very much needed with its fleet. I'm not gonna draw out its fleet, but couldn't have done it without it. All right, I hope you guys learned something. This was a great video to go over as far as people not getting stuck on one bias and just marking up M5, M15s and just taking trades off of them just because they want to get into a trade. You should understand where price is, and if it looks funky, it probably is. So good luck out there. TP2 is king, and keep trading.